Andrew.
Hello, Edson. Nice to see you again. Thanks for inviting me along.
Thanks for being with us. And my question is, what can we expect from smart packaging development in 2021?
Well, that's a highly speculative question from an industry point of view, because obviously 2020 was such a disruptive year in all the wrong ways rather than disruptive in all the right ways. But certainly we see a lot of activity in areas of authentication, and because a lot of the traceability and tracking and traceability issues are coming up really to their deadlines in terms of legislative stuff coming in the US and the UK, Europe, etc. Then the activity probably levels in the pharma and the authentication of food and blockchain issues will certainly begin to increase. I think a lot of areas of food are now being dedicated to food safety, food security, and of course a lot of the things that the smart packaging people produce are in that area of activity. And they're obviously, one of the things is that they're becoming more attractive financially and if you want to use the slightly wrong word, but you know what I mean by it, politically, in the fact that they're being pushed into, or the retailers and the food producers are being pushed into giving the customers much more confidence about the supply chain. So it's a whole supply chain issue. I think there might be a supply chain revolution in 2021, which has already started, if you like, from what's been happening in 2020. And we're going to see a much greater adoption of things like monitoring and shelf life extension, which is, in my opinion, overdue. For other things like the drinks, cosmetics, luxury end, I can see more of the same, because the issues of counterfeiting haven't gone away. But the focus has very much been on counterfeiting of things like PPE, the masks and the kit for coronavirus, and now the vaccines, of course. But we certainly see those areas. Counterfeiting has always been a big issue, but we think it will continue to become even more important. So I suppose what I'm telling you really is a bit more of the same, but the emphasis being put on things that are causing more pain at the moment, particularly the whole supply chain issue, because distribution is not just about the vaccine, it's about food and it's about other pharma. And most pharmaceutical companies are truly global players now, so they have markets in some very difficult spots of the world where humidity or length of time to market is an issue. So all of those areas, tracking, traceability, condition monitoring, helping to make sure that you don't get problems with ingress of water or heat, are areas where smart packaging can help. It's a bit messy, but it's always been that way, really.
Regarding the supply chain, as I heard some companies telling about, there are lots of efforts on sustainability to being predicted to this year and the next ones. How do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, sustainability is still a highly important area, and one of the things that the smart packaging sector has been doing in recent years is looking at ways to address concerns that if you add a smart component to a pack, then you're going to have a pack that's harder to recycle. Things like using the right sort of materials, such as graphene, is an area where you can overcome sustainability, but at a cost. Or sort of not overcome the sustainability issue, but at a cost. And so there'll be more work done in trying to make sure that the smart packaging that we are using is going to be leaning towards or more easily recyclable or more sustainable. I mean, the whole supply chain issue is becoming more complicated, and not just because of the coronavirus. So I think that we'll have more developments. I mean, you are aware of some of the clever components that can use already stuff that's on the pack to identify whether there's a false or a counterfeit product by just scanning a barcode that's already existing on an existing pack. And I think you're going to see more developments in those areas to try and simplify the process and take away the adding a tag factor. Although adding a tag to certain things like apparel is still growing and going strong, because that gives certainly the apparel sector so much more visibility in their supply chain and their inventory management.
And the food industry must lead that, in your opinion, or which industry is going to grow more in 2021?
In terms of the use of smart packaging we're talking about here?
Yes.
To be perfectly honest, I see pharmaceuticals being a fairly high growth area. Two-pronged, partly because we need to get distribution in the cool chain out for very obvious reasons, and that requires monitoring, and that requires much more careful management of supply chains, and also because legislation that has been in process for years, like the I can't ever remember the name of the full thing on the American thing, but that Food, Drug and
FDA.
Well, no, not the FDA, but the actual piece of legislation that was started in Obama's time has been delayed and delayed and delayed, and is now coming actually on stream, I think either in 2021 or 2022. And it's surprising how ill prepared some of the pharma companies are for it on their track and traceability, and that's down to things like unit level. So I can see some investment going on in that, and also in terms of compliance, because I think that both the pharma companies and the world at large is waking up to the fact that we waste a lot of the very valuable drugs. I mean, we've already had instances in the last few days of people wasting vaccine because it's not been stored at the right temperature. So you extrapolate that up to people who use half a packet of antibiotics and chuck them in the cupboard and forget about them for 3 years, when they haven't actually been properly cured. So anything to help aid compliance, help aid better structures for supply chains in the pharma sector, will, I think, be very much to the fore. I can also, going back to your food reference at the beginning of the question, I certainly see the food industry is going to have to invest more in traceability, authentication, because the consumer's demanding it. They want to know where their products are coming from, whether it's been sustainably sourced. And the only way you can do that is by offering them some information from the pack. And whether that's a chip or a tag or a QR code or a piece of printed electronics is another thing. A very recent story that I've seen is of an RFID tag that you're putting into a pack to actually predict if it's the protein in the pack, which is a meat product, is actually nearing its expiry date. And that's sort of using RFID in a slightly different way, which is exciting, I think.
Yeah. And how do you believe the pandemic will interfere in this market, the smart packaging market, and also the supply chain, the smart supply chain, in the following year?
Well, perversely, like some industries have benefited from the coronavirus, and we've already referred to this a little bit. I can see that we have opportunities from having to order our supply chains much better, making them much more controllable and much more inspection easy. I mean, this stuff is not cheap, and it requires very heavy duty temperatures for at least the Pfizer and the Moderna ones. So you're going to have monitors on there, and they're going to have to be pretty good ones. So yeah, and again, in the food sector, we have opportunities because people expect their food to be hygienically packed, and you need to have things on the pack that tell you that this is uncontaminated or is inhibiting the contamination that's possibly out there. And people are shopping less frequently because they're a bit locked in, so you need stuff with longer shelf life. So there are opportunities out there which hopefully retailers and food producers will embrace, because at the end of the day they help, one, reduce waste, and two, give their consumers the added confidence that what they're getting is in good condition and uncontaminated. So there are some real opportunities out there for the smart packaging sector.
Great. And Andrew, let me ask you, what about the events, the AIPIA events this year?
Okay, we made a very early decision, as we did in 2020, to go virtual throughout 2021, because we believe travel disruptions not going to go away immediately. So we have a program of 5 events, 2 regional, one in India, one in China, and then 3 other events which are more aimed globally at what we're calling the pain points. So sustainability and recycling, digitization, and as per usual, I've forgotten what the other one is now. We'll have to edit that bit, I'm afraid.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
We can edit.
But we have what's the other one? Digitization, sustainability, and supply chains. Silly me, of all. Yeah. Okay. So we have three events aimed globally at supply chain management, at digitization, so connected packaging, very much in the RFID NFC field, and sustainability and recycling, and how the smart packaging sector can help that. And the China one will be a hybrid event, because there's still some people are allowed to go to events in China, but all the rest will be digital. And we've had a very, very good response so far. So we're looking forward to all of those events with a great deal of optimism.
Yeah. I would like to ask you to share just one more idea. I was discussing with some guys here in Brazil about the importance of the smart packaging in the supply chain. And some people still don't believe that smart packaging is a strong part of the supply chain. How do you see that? And as a concept, how do you understand that?
Well, I mean, I very much feel that smart packaging can be an enormous benefit to any supply chain, because it gives security, surety, and traceability. But obviously, there are some people who are not very keen on investing in new technology. I mean, there's always been a tradition in the packaging industry that somebody else has got to do it first, and then everybody else goes, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea. So let's go with that." You know, and I suppose old habits die hard. But I really feel that the supply chain management is such a crucial part of what's going to be happening. I mean, I've seen remarks made in the press and elsewhere about a supply chain revolution, and I truly believe that maybe we are on the verge of a supply chain revolution, and smart packaging has got to be at the center of that because it offers so many benefits.
Sure. And I was seeing some companies even thinking about investing on the additive manufacturing or 3D printing, and this is also part of the supply chain, and it can this kind of process can change everything from the beginning, when you just process the product. And I think this can also be used as a smart packaging tool. Don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on 3D printing, but looking at the leaps and bounds that are being made in digital printing and how they are benefiting the packaging sector, personalization being an obvious one for all of us, and even on-pack printing of things like tags and sticker, OLEDs and stuff like that. The thermochromics and stuff. It's going virtually exponentially, Edson, really, and I can only see that increasing when you have people with the resources of HP and Avery Dennison involved in these things. And if you look at those two alone, they're investing heavily in the packaging sector. And in fact, sad to say that Drupal was going to be very much focused on the packaging sector but they'll have to wait another 4 years, I'm afraid.
And you were for a long time in this market, in this industry of the intelligent packaging and active packaging, right?
Yeah, well, I've been in the packaging industry for coming up close to 50 years, which is a horrible thought, but and I've seen a huge amount of changes. I was in the machinery sector before, but I've really been in the smart packaging or active and intelligent packaging sector since 2011. So I'm coming up to 10 years, and that's when IPIA was started. So we feel as though we have a fairly strong grounding in the way the industry is developing and a good handle on the way it's going to go in the future.
So, Andrew, let me thank you for your participation and for sharing your knowledge with us.
It's been a pleasure. Nice to see you. Thank you.